everybody, my name is Casey Slater and I am a senior conference programmer here at South by Southwest. Welcome to another online session with special guest Leon Logothetis. We are so excited to have Leon here today. He is the creator and host of the Netflix series, The Kindness Diaries. In this session today, Leon will discuss the power of just simple kindness and that we all have the ability within to change this world for better through empathy and connection. I can't think of a better conversation to have during such uncertain times where we really have to rely on and support each other. Now, with no further ado, here is Leon Logothetis.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Leon. Thank you very much for tuning in to hear my speech about kindness. We are all, well, many of us may be still self-isolating. And today I'm going to talk to you about something that is very dear to my heart. Kindness, which, you know, in many ways is one of the most beautiful things that we can give to ourselves and to another human being. It is in many ways one of the most delicate things that we have to offer. Our heart. How many times have we failed to see another human being? How many times have we failed to see ourselves? And my journeys around the world are really all about connecting with humanity and all about seeing each other. And the most beautiful and the most profound way to see another human being is simply to be kind. And what is kindness? Kindness is compassion. Kindness is empathy. Kindness is wisdom. And it is a journey well worth taking. So you may be wondering to yourself, who is this Englishman talking to me through this screen? Well, and why should I listen to him when he talks to me about kindness? Well, I used to be a broker in the city of London, and on the outside, I had everything. I had everything you could ever want. On the inside, I had nothing you would ever want. I was depressed, alone, broken. Yet no one knew, because I was wearing a mask. And that mask is something that I'm sure many of you are well aware of. The mask says, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. But the truth is that we're not okay many of the times. And only when we let that mask go do we truly have a chance to live our greatest lives. And I remember thinking to myself that I was going to have to sit behind this desk my whole life. And live someone else's life, live someone else's dreams. And then fortunately, I stumbled across this movie, The Motorcycle Diaries, which is a romanticized version of Che Guevara traveling around South America relying on kindness. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie where you think to yourself that the director is talking straight into the center of my being. He did this for me. Well, that's exactly what happened when I watched The Motorcycle Diaries. It was about this chap who traveled across South America. You may know him, Che Guevara, a romanticized version of Che Guevara, relying entirely on kindness. And I realized in that moment that there was another way to live. I didn't have to sit behind that desk. I didn't have to follow someone else's life. And I could live from here. And not from here. So when I was sitting on my couch in London, I came up with what I thought was a pretty brilliant idea, which was pretty brilliant when you're sitting on your couch in London, but not so brilliant when you decide that you're going to quit your job, you're going to go to Times Square, and you're going to walk from Times Square to the Hollywood sign, relying entirely on the kindness of strangers. I remember arriving in Times Square and thinking to myself, oh no, what have I done? This is not good. And in that moment, I had two choices, right? One, call my father, say, Dad, can I have my job back? Never going to happen. Two was to find my way across America, relying entirely on people just like you. And that is exactly what happened. And I'm going to tell you a little story. I was in Indianapolis. I remember sitting outside this hotel on a bench. I started chatting with this lady. She had a 1-year-old kid, telling her my adventures and all these people that I'd met. And she said to me, you know what? If you can find your way to Chicago, which was only 3 hours away, here are the only set of keys to my house. You can eat the chili from my fridge. You can sleep on my couch, and you can leave the next day. And I remember thinking to myself, my inside voice, there is something wrong with this woman. But my outside voice was like, all right, took her keys, found my way to Chicago, ate the chili from her fridge, slept on her couch, and left the keys in the flower pot the next morning. And it was experiences like that that made me realize that there is a whole new way of living. There is a whole new world that unless we experience it from our heart, we will never know exists. And that is the world of compassion. That is the world of heart. That is the world of kindness. And it took me quitting my job as a broker, traveling around America, relying on kindness, to realize there was another way to live. I ended up finding my way to Los Angeles, which isn't exactly renowned for being the kindest place in the world. It's true. And, I fell back into some old patterns, started working in a corporate job again to a certain degree, did this for about 6 or 7 years. And then I had another epiphany. For some reason, I like epiphanies. I had another epiphany. I was walking down the street of Hollywood Boulevard, saw this chap, a homeless guy, with a sign that said, kindness is the best medicine. Something in that moment, when you have that moment of clarity, just hit me straight in the center of my being. And I realized that I had to do something drastic once again. So I decided to purchase a vintage yellow motorbike, call it Kindness One, sort of like Air Force One, but a little bit yellower, and circumnavigate Earth from LA all the way around the world back to LA, relying entirely on people like you. But this time there'd be a little bit of a twist. And the twist was that unsuspecting Good Samaritans would receive a life-changing gift. I'd have no money, no food, no gas, no place to stay, nothing. Just you. People like you. Sometimes say to me, they're like, Leon, you did this adventure. What did you learn? What did you learn? And the truth is that I crossed oceans and container ships. I swam in the Ganges. I wouldn't suggest doing that, by the way. I had all these epic experiences, but there was one experience that answered the question, Leon, what did you learn? And that was, I was in India, sleeping in the slums. I spent a couple of nights in the slums. And I woke up in the morning. And if you've ever been to a slum, it's on the outside, it's pretty horrific. There's sometimes not running water. It's a pretty interesting environment. On the inside, there's a lot of heart. And I saw this lady kiss her 2 kids goodbye to go to school. And I realized in that moment that we are all the same. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money you don't have. We are all the same. We just want to be seen. We just want to be heard. We just want to be loved. And the fuel for seeing someone, as I said earlier, is kindness. Now, sometimes when I give speeches, there are sometimes kindness cynics in the room. Maybe there are some kindness cynics here. I don't know. I normally have my slides, and one of my slides that I would have as we were speaking now is a picture of me in the S21 concentration camp in Cambodia. And I put that picture up because I don't want anyone to think that this is about perfection. I don't want anyone to think that this is about me being Pollyannish. Oh, the Englishman, he came to me and told me that all I had to do was be kind and everything would work itself out. That's not the world we live in, right? Bad things happen. Auschwitz happens. The killing fields happen. Bad things happen. But if we put a magnifying glass on the bad, then things are not going to turn out well, right? If we put a magnifying glass on the good, which is what I'm suggesting you try your best to do, then life changes. The world changes. This is not about being Pollyannish. It's about being realistic. But take the magnifying glass, turn off the news, and they would say no, which, is understandable, right? And I remember in Pittsburgh, this is a story that epitomizes my entire journey. I remember in Pittsburgh, I would go up to people and no one would let me stay, which is fine. I went up to this one chap and I said, "Hey, can I stay in your house tonight?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Look, I'm really sorry, but I'm homeless." So I feel a lot of shame. I've just asked a homeless man to stay in his house. I'm about to walk off and he turns around and he says, "But you know what? You are not staying on the streets of Pittsburgh tonight." But there was that one little counterintuitive voice, we all have it, that said, "Leon, buddy, you are staying on the streets of Pittsburgh tonight." And that's exactly what happened. I ended up staying on the streets with Tony. And he taught me two profound lessons. One, kindness is free. It's free. If a homeless man with basically nothing, he had one bag that he used to hide in the bushes so people didn't steal it. If a homeless man with basically nothing can be kind, then why can't we? Again, there's no perfection. Don't go home and say, "Oh, you're probably all home anyway," but don't go and say, "Oh, the Englishman told me I had to be perfect." No. I gave you the telephone number of my girlfriend. She will tell you how imperfect I am. It's not about perfection, but kindness is free. Second, true wealth is not in our wallets. It is in our hearts. Now, am I suggesting that you give away all your money? No. If you give it away, give it to me. I'm not suggesting that. What I am suggesting is that unless you live from a foundation of love, unless you live from a foundation of service, unless you live from a foundation of giving, you're not truly alive. True wealth is not in our wallets. It is in our hearts. Tony, as I said, we gave unsuspecting Good Samaritans a life-changing gift. So we ended up putting Tony in an apartment and sending him back to school. He wanted to be a chef. And he always says to me, I still speak to him, he always says to me, "Leon, you changed my life." And I always say the same thing to him. "Tony, it is you who changed my life." It took sleeping on the streets of Pittsburgh to realize what was important. It took sleeping on the streets of Pittsburgh to realize that the greatest wealth each and every one of us has is here. I'm sure some of you have dogs and love dogs. I have a dog called Winston Churchill. He is literally the naughtiest dog in England. And I remember once bought a veggie burger, leave it downstairs, go upstairs to get something, come down. Winnie and the veggie burger disappeared. He's gone. He ate the veggie burger, right? Also, have this really comfy chair. Sit in my comfy chair. Winnie's over there barking, whining. I'm like, Winnie, what's wrong with you? Get out of my chair. Winnie gets in my chair. He wants my chair, right? He's very naughty. Naughtiest dog in England. And one day I thought to myself, I was like, holy moly. I am so kind and so patient to Winston. What would happen if I went out into the world and I chose to be kind and patient to you? And I realized that how I showed up in the world was a choice. It was a choice. If I could treat Winnie with love and patience and kindness when he was doing all the things he was doing, then why can't I do it with you? So I did the Winnie Love Challenge. And the Winnie Love Challenge was 7 days of Winnie love to you. Much changed after those 7 days. Every time I got angry with someone, every time I was mean to someone, every time I was unkind, I remembered the Winnie Love Challenge, and I remembered that it was a choice. You get to choose. And that moves us on to one of the most important things. A wise man once said to me, Leon, do you want to know the secret to life? And I was like, no, not really. No, I didn't say that. It's a joke. I said to him, yeah, of course I want to know the secret to life. Tell me the secret to life. Tell me. And he's like, Leon, the secret to life is to be gentle to yourself. I was like, whoa. The secret to life is to be gentle to myself? That is the secret to life. How many times do we treat ourselves with disdain? How many times do we treat ourselves with unkindness? We would never let anyone treat us that way. How dare you? Do you know who I am? How dare you? Yet we do it every day. Most of the time, we're not even conscious we're doing it. The secret to life is to be gentle to yourself. People sometimes say to me, they're like, Leon, I can't be kind. It's like, what? What do you mean? You can't be kind? I just can't. I'm like, why not? Because if I'm kind, I'll be squashed. Because if I'm kind, I'll be vulnerable and someone will take advantage. Because if I'm kind, people will think I'm weak. I get it. I understand. I do. We live in a crazy world. So when they tell me, oh, I can't be kind, I tell them the story of the great Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, a man of love, a man of service, not a perfect man, no one ever is, a man of compassion, a good man. How many of you would mess with the great Muhammad Ali? And that's the point. Kindness is, in fact, the greatest strength. How easy it is to get angry with someone and flip them off when you're on the freeway. How difficult it is to let it be. How easy it is to be mean. How difficult it is to hold someone's heart. kindness is in fact your greatest strength. I remember when I arrived in Vietnam on this journey, I was having some problems. They wouldn't let me into the country. The bike was impounded. Took me 8 or 9 days to try and get the bike out. That's a story in itself. I went to the American embassy. I said to them, can you help me? Can you help me? They won't let me get the bike out. And they said, look, we'll try and help you. The operative word being try. They say, I go up to the front office. They take all my documents, the passport to get the bike into Vietnam, the passport to get the bike out of Vietnam, into Canada, out of Canada, into America, everything. And they say, give me everything. I give it to them. He gives it to his assistant. He says, photocopy these. Half an hour later, nothing. An hour later, nothing. He calls him and says, where are all the documents? He's like, I shredded them. The PG-13 version of my reaction was, oh no, now I'm screwed. But I tell you that story because in the end we got the bike out. They had to help us. I tell you that story because in those 8 or 9 days, I ended up meeting this amazing doctor, a doctor who dedicates his whole life to giving free eyesight surgery to people. So whilst those 8 days were happening and I was having my little meltdown, something good happened. And here was a man who was giving everything from his heart. Here was a man who was giving everything from a sense of service. I'm not suggesting you go leave your job and set up an eyesight surgery clinic in Vietnam. But what I am suggesting is that the foundations of greatness, however they may be, come from a foundation of love. Come from a foundation of kindness. Come from a foundation of compassion. We live in a society where our heroes are sports stars. Our heroes are maybe to some politicians. Our heroes are celebrities. I would like to say that all you need to be a hero is to be kind. All you need to be a hero is to make someone else feel like they matter. I had a teacher once. Every day I'd walk into school, be bullied every single day. And she would look at me in the eyes and she would say, I believe in you. I believe in you. And I never forgot that. It sunk into my very essence. She was my hero. And I'm sure, or I hope, that you have had a hero in your life who has made you feel like you have value, who has made you feel like you matter. Remember that hero, because they made you the person that you are today. In Vietnam, these 9 days, I ended up sitting outside this really beautiful building, having a self-piteous English moment. And a guy comes out of the building and he says, hey, you okay? And I'm like, well, not really. And he goes, well, you're in luck. You're sitting outside the Ho Chi Minh City Opera House, and I'm the chief of the Opera House, the executive director. And I'm like, that's really wonderful news. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. And he says, I want you to come to the opera. And I was like, all right, I'll come to the opera. Thanks for that. Go to the opera, sit at the top for until the end, 20 minutes at the end. He taps me on the shoulder and he says, I want you to go on stage. And I said to him, that is a really bad idea. He says, no, 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 no. I want you to go on stage. It's like, okay. Dresses me up in all black, gives me some drums, says, go and play your heart out. There are a lot of worries. It's like, don't worry, just play. I go out, I play my heart out. I feel free. And then at the end, something quite profound happens. I get a standing ovation. Now, admittedly, it was a pity standing ovation, but it was a standing ovation. And in that moment, everything starts to make sense. I feel seen. Yes, the external version, I quickly internalize it. I feel seen. What did I give Tony? I saw him. You are important enough for me to help you. I saw him. What does the Vietnamese doctor give to all those patients, the free eye surgery clinic? He saw them. You are valuable enough for me to help you. What did that teacher all those years ago do for me? She saw me. That is the most beautiful and powerful thing that each and every one of you can do, to see another human being. Now, I don't know the types of people that are listening to this little chat, but I do know that if you came to South by Southwest, that you are an individual with some power, that you are an individual with the ability to effect change. If that is true, then this message is vitally important, specifically for you. Because imagine how many lives you can touch. Imagine how many lives you can change by infusing your message with hope, by infusing your message with compassion, by infusing your life with heart. So this message is specifically beautiful for someone like you. I will say one last thing, and that is that people often say to me, Leon, what is the secret source of kindness? And the secret source of kindness is empathy. When we live in a world where there is no empathy, Auschwitz happens. And you may think to yourself, oh, Auschwitz, that's way, way over the horizon. That is not true. Every moment leads to another moment, which leads to another moment. And it's like a snowball effect. Let us live with our hearts as open as possible. Go out into your work and into your families and infuse the people that you meet with as much hope as you possibly can. And you cannot infuse hope without empathy. Just touch one life. That's it. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to open it up for some questions. And I'm feeling extremely generous, and each question is only $7,000, so we're in good shape. Okay. Su Yeru. How can we teach others to be stronger and rise above the noise and shaming or hate rhetoric they read and see and hear from their community? Wow. That is a very good question. Look, I would say that you have to start with yourself, right? You have to start with yourself. And then you have to take little baby steps. And I talked about infusing your life with love, infusing your life with heart. Then someone else may start shifting. And it's like a snowball effect of sorts, right? So you have to start with yourself, infuse your heart with love, infuse your life with love, and slowly it'll be a small ripple effect. And sometimes, you know, we look at the news and we're like, oh God, how on earth are we going to do this? We get flooded with anxiety. This is just ridiculous. It's never going to work out. We're doomed, right? Maybe. The civil rights movement began in earnest when one old lady refused to be pushed around and sat down, Mrs. Rosa Parks. Sometimes all it takes is one moment. Okay? All right. Dan Frame, I'm a high school teacher and I think empathy is a huge part of being kind. Do you have any good ways of teaching empathy? Absolutely. So I do a lot of speeches with kids, right? And I say to the kids, I sometimes bring them up on stage, and I say to the kids, I say, how does it feel when someone is mean to you? And they're like, oh, it feels terrible. It feels awful. Whew. I don't like it. Okay. Then I say to them, how does it feel when someone is kind to you? And they're like, oh, it feels amazing. It feels great. I love it. And in that moment, they realize the power of getting connected to their feelings. They don't have to understand the technicalities of it, but they feel it. They're like, oh, when someone's mean to me, I feel terrible. Oh, when someone's kind to me, I feel amazing. And then they hear other people saying the same thing. They're like, you know, in this big auditorium, someone comes up, what does it feel like when someone's unkind to you? And sometimes the kids are crying and you feel their pain. You see their pain. You understand it. And that is the most important way. Make them feel. Okay. Jacob, watch Kindness Diaries 1 and 2 with my family and we love them. Can you describe your crew and the support they provided to execute these amazing journeys? Okay, yeah, sure. So first of all, I forgot to say in the speech that we did a season 2, which was Alaska to Argentina with a 50-year-old beetle called Kindness 2. And the crew are never allowed to help me. They follow in a car, they stay in hotels, and they get to live the high life. But I get to connect with people. I get to meet people. I get to be inspired by people. So that's really how the crew does it. Yeah? Okay. What advice, this is anonymous. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start living this way today during quarantine? How do you start? I would say the fact that you're asking this question means that there is a big part of you that wants to live this way. And that's the first step, right? I would say write a letter to yourself from your 10-year-old self, okay? And in that letter, Get your 10-year-old self to tell you why living with kindness, why living with compassion, while living with hope is such a beautiful thing. Get your 10-year-old self to tell you all the magic that can happen when you live from that place of love. And I assure you, by the end of that little letter, you will be inspired to keep taking small baby steps, because the magic of our childhood, or our inner child, not necessarily our childhood, the magic of our inner child sometimes gets lost. And writing a letter to yourself from that part of you is actually a very profound way to reignite lost parts of yourself. Okay? All right. Yaritza Torres, what words would you share to younger generations who are being reinforced online to believe that mean equals popularity? Wow, I didn't know that is happening. Being mean equals popularity. That's a bit frightening. But I would do the same thing that I said to the other gentleman. I would make them understand the destructiveness of unkindness, the destructiveness of bullying, not by telling them, but by making them feel it all. Human beings do not like to be treated badly. Yeah. So I would create some kind of experiment whereby, without judging anyone, everyone in the room would feel what it feels like to be treated with disdain. I sometimes tell the kids, I say, don't be the one that sends a message on Instagram or on Facebook that pushes a kid over the line, a line where he or she harms himself, a line where he or she harms someone else. Don't be that kid. But sometimes words aren't enough. Sometimes you have to feel the destructiveness of showing up with hate. And a kid may not realize he's showing up with hate. I get it. So you show them. Linda, when COVID-19 hit, it seemed to connect us here in the US. Several weeks later, our divisions have reemerged. Why is it so difficult to maintain connectivity? I must say, it is a bit sad to see the fighting going on the news, the political fighting because of COVID-19. You would imagine that if there was anything that was going to bring us together, it was this, because, you know, we're all in this together. You cannot have anything else where every single person in America, in the world, is in this together, yet we're still fighting. And by survival mode, I mean that, you know, our survival is at stake. So all of our negative things come out. All of our you know, our own interpersonal issues come out. And with the COVID-19, it's an enemy, but you can't actually see it. It's not like we're being invaded by a country where everyone can turn around and focus on that country. We're being invaded by this disease, virus, that no one can see. Some people are suffering, some people are fine. So it's easier for the mind to be like, oh, well, you know, they're just doing this for this reason, or they're just doing this for that reason. Whereas if it was an enemy, where it was a war, you'd be like, oh, okay, it's very, very crystal clear. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Yusuf Salah. Yusuf, are you related to Mo Salah? Anyway, sorry, I had to say that. I imagine it can be strange approaching people with a camera team. Can you tell us how that plays out while filming Kindness Diaries? Very good question. So I go up to people without the cameras. Yeah. So I walk up to people with no camera. I say to them, hey, I'm doing this journey. I'm traveling around the world, blah, blah, blah. Are you willing to help? Sometimes they say no. Sometimes they say yes. If they say no, I'll say, okay, no worries. Are you willing for us to get that on camera? And they'll be like, okay, or not. Sometimes when they say yes, I'll do the same thing. And then the camera comes in. I'm not inspired by cameras. So like, get the camera out of my face. Yeah. So that's how the cameras work. Okay. All right. Anonymous. How should one handle the small injustices that happen every day without feeling like you're being taken advantage of or being a pushover? I wonder whether Muhammad Ali, or I wonder whether anyone ever tried to take advantage of Muhammad Ali. And I say that because being kind, being compassionate, being love service orientated can open you up for people to try and take advantage. But no, there's a boundary. You will not walk all over me. That is when surrounding yourself with good people helps tremendously. That is when surrounding yourself with wise, kind, strong people helps tremendously. So there will always be times when we do, to a certain degree, feel like we are not at our best and someone has walked on us. And we have to stand up for ourselves. And we have to surround ourselves with the best. E. Stevens. What actions can we take daily to improve our lives? Being kind can be tough at times, absolutely. But how many of us commit to how we show up in the world? Yeah. And that is really a way to answer your question. You have to commit to showing up with as much goodness as you can. Again, without letting people walk all over you. Oh no, you're not good. Just because I'm kind does not mean that I'm going to let you walk all over me. So I would definitely say small baby steps, read some books, watch movies about compassion, watch the Motorcycle Diaries, read books, do everything, consume as much as you can about the beauty of life. Actually, I have a quote, it's in the car. That would be my suggestion. Okay, Chad Gabriel. How hard was it to commit to this journey and creating the Kindness Diaries? How did your financial situation impact the decision? Look, in order to do anything difficult or anything magnificent, you have to commit. And sometimes pain is the greatest motivator. So I was sitting in this office in tremendous emotional pain. And it pushed me towards creating the Kindness Diaries. It pushed me towards making my life different. It pushed me towards trying to inspire. And the financial situation, it's an excellent question. Look, I was fortunate, right? I was a broker. I had a sense of financial stability, and I could quit my job. I still had to work, but it is much harder to do if you don't have that. I get it. But it's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes I tell people to wish for pain, because pain sometimes is the only motivational force that will push us to where we need to be. Okay? Andre do Amaral dos Santos. I assume that you're Brazilian, but I could be wrong. What are some practical ways to live out the power of connection through kindness during quarantine? Well, remember the secret to life: to be gentle to yourself. Write a list, do one day, and write down every time you say or do something mean to yourself. And you'll be like, holy moly. With that awareness, you can shift it and start treating yourself with a little bit more kindness. Reaching out to people, reaching out to friends, reaching out to, in fact, I wrote a book called Go Be Kind. And in it, I had a thing called cell phone roulette, where you take your phone, yes, this is my phone, and you go down like this without looking, and whoever it lands on, you call, right? And you call them, whoever it is, and you call them, and you're like, hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you for a while, blah, 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 and you start connecting. I give you the challenge to do that every day for 7 days, all right? That's my challenge to you specifically. Your name isn't here anymore. I think it was Andre, okay? All right. Anonymous. One-to-one kindness seems very attainable. But how can we create kindness on a more massive scale and break through the mean mob mentality? When you figure that out, let me know. Because it is one of the most anxiety-producing things for me, is turning on the news and seeing people being vicious, seeing things that are just horrific. And I'm not necessarily talking about, murder or this kind of stuff. I'm talking about verbal murder. It's horrifying. And sometimes, to be honest with you, it creates a sense of hopelessness, because how can we make a difference? Like, I know I said you can change the world by only changing one life. I know I said that, so I should probably listen to what I said. But sometimes it does make you feel hopeless. Like, how can I affect change? I mean, this is madness, what's going on. People are like, it's just insane. Even with this COVID-19, let's treat each other with some respect. So to be honest with you, I don't have an answer to that question. I wish I did. The only answer I have is that to change the world, all you need to do is change one life, because you never know. Your kindness may touch a life, and in 30 years' time, that person may become the president of the United States and may remember what you did for them and may be like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because of this. So that's how you do it. Okay? Bob Connor, what positive moment has happened to you during COVID-19? I would say the most positive moment is having the space to rest, having the space to reconnect, having the space to dream again. That is the most positive moment. Okay, Namrata Goswami. I have come to understand that we are the most unkind to ourselves and tend to be kind to others, but not ourselves. How can we cultivate that perspective? Well, the next time you're mean to yourself, just imagine if another person had said that to you. So let's just do a little experiment. Let's just say, Leon, I say to myself, Leon, you're not as good a speaker as you think you are. What? And if someone else said that to me, Leon, you're not as good a speaker as you think you are, I say, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, I think I'm a pretty good speaker, and why on earth are you saying that to me? Like, that's pretty mean and pretty rude, and I'm not listening to it. Thank you very much. Unless it's said constructively. So I would say, have that dialogue with yourself, and then externalize that dialogue and pretend it's coming from someone else. You'd be like, oh, no, you're not going to speak to me like that, my son. Okay. Anonymous. What are the long-term implications for our society and world if we don't start showing more kindness to each other? Well, if I'm not mistaken, militaries around the world, the most powerful militaries around the world, have the capacity to destroy countries in minutes. Okay? So if we continue down this road of self-destructiveness, if we continue down this road of causing pain, there is only one outcome, and that is our own self-destruction. And that our own self-destruction doesn't have to come from a mushroom cloud. It can come from an emotional mushroom cloud. Okay? All right. Bob Hultz. Leon, what is the next project you're working on? Well, we just did a documentary series called Reveal God to Me, where I went to India in search of God, which was quite an interesting adventure. And we have also just completed, thankfully, just before COVID-19 hit, another documentary series about how we can live inspiring lives through travel. Okay? All right. Jamie, what have you personally done to stop impulses to be unkind and shift to kindness instead? Wow, that's a great question. And remember how I said that I'm not perfect, right? Never have been, never will be. I remember I was giving a speech to some kids, and this kid turns around, puts his hand up and says, "Mr. Leon, have you ever been unkind?" My first reaction was like, I'm going to lie to the kid. I'm going to lie to the child. And then I'm like, no, you're not. You're not going to lie to the child. You're going to tell the child the truth. And the truth is, yes, of course I've been mean. Because I'm just like you. Sometimes I'm mean, sometimes I'm not. But what I have done is made a commitment to show up in my life with as much hope and as much kindness as I can, imperfectly. So I'm aware of when I'm unkind. Like, for example, there are times, maybe I'll be in a bad mood, whatever, go to Starbucks, and I'm pretty unkind, right? I'm not very pleasant. And then I think to myself, sometimes I catch it mid-unkind thought or unkind action. Sometimes it's too late. And I'm like, ooh, you have to change this, son. You have to change, and you have to show some compassion here in this moment. You have to make this person feel like they have value. So I'll change it. So really, it's about awareness. It's about having an awareness of how we show up. Okay, Vera Cano. Hola, Leon. Regarding your trips around the world, what is your ranking of the most kind countries or cities and why? That's a good one. Look, I would say, I'll give you the top three. So the kindest country I've ever been to is Bhutan. Bhutan has a thing called gross national happiness, where they determine the success of the country by the happiness of the people. And I remember meeting some truly magnificent human beings, people that live from here, open, wide open. Two, I would say Tanzania. I would say America. There is a generosity of spirit in this country that is at times really quite profound. You wouldn't know it by watching the news. You wouldn't know it by reading the newspapers. But when you go out into the center of the country, when you go out into the towns and you meet the people, sometimes admittedly away from the bigger towns, you see and you sense goodness running through people's veins. But then you turn on the news and you're like, whoa, what just happened? Anyway, guys, if you want to connect with me, just email me at leon@createdbywinston.com or Instagram @thekindnessguy. I will reply to every single message I receive from anyone to do with South by Southwest. So you can email me at leon@createdbywinston.com or on Instagram @thekindnessguy. Thank you very much. Good luck. And I hope you enjoyed the little chat.